half of it. We have 6 songs that are, or 5 songs that are ready, and then we'll be back in the studio in April to finish it up. So by July, yeah.
One of the great things we can do to support our musicians is make sure that we are buying their albums, make sure that we are going to their concerts, make sure that we are supporting them as an acknowledgement of the magic they bring into this room. Yes? Yay! So, wow. We were talking before service. I was asking, what song are you singing? How can I? Because usually, if I have some general idea of what the song is, no one's done Back in Black yet, although even that would work. I can find a way to make it fit with the beginning of my talk. Now, having sat there, making the change and being change are 2 different things, yes? One of them is a state of being. There's not much activity. But what we were reminded of today is that making the change, if you really are the change, if you've internalized that new beingness, you're going to be acting from it. Has anyone been through some changes lately? I woke up this morning and got a really nice reminder that I am no longer 16. And shoveling is different. So there was yeah, you keep laughing. I'm going to buy me a snowblower. Another change that a friend recommended to me is that I take my talk and put it over here. Because one of the things we've done that's different is that we have a camera going. And so, love to everyone who is watching this in a different space-time moment. But I'm going to try and not do the talk like this with my back to the camera. So the talk is over here, and I have to keep remembering not to go over there. A change has been made, and I have to shift some of what I do in order to accommodate the change. We are not just the people who meet here on Sunday morning anymore. We are us plus. And so to everybody in YouTube land, we're sending our love. And really what's important to remember is that it's not just us and the people who are watching our videos, because we have themes that we have in common with the 400 centers in the now 29 countries in which this teaching is happening. I just found out that in 2020 we're starting to have more of our group gatherings. In 2020, it's in South Africa. Anyone want to go with me? Dude, maybe we'll meet Trevor Noah. Maybe not. He's in New York, I think. Maybe we'll meet his grandmother, who's even cooler. So we have the opportunity now to make ourselves into that thing we claim to be, which is a worldwide oneness. To start behaving. Now, we have that opportunity all the time, right? I mean, I could have started last summer and gotten in shape so that when I started shoveling, nobody cared whether I was 16 or not. Did I do it? No. That's okay. I can do it now. This year's theme has to do with a gentleman by the name of, I got rid of it. I was doing a lot of cleaning up there he is, based on Reverend Dr. James Forbes Jr.'s Prophetic Justice Principles. Now, when I was growing up, I thought prophetic justice meant something akin to schadenfreude, which is not at all what prophetic justice is about. I thought it meant, you kind of get what's coming to you. Like, I could have seen that coming a mile away. I don't need to be a prophet in order to see the justice that's about to smack somebody in the face, but I can just sit here and enjoy it. That's the schadenfreude part. That's not what we're talking about here. This takes us back to kind of an Old Testament-y idea in which the prophets were the people who reminded people of who they were. The person who reminded me that I'm just not just your minister or speaking to just you, but speaking to everybody out in YouTube land. That person acted as a prophet for me the day that he shared that I keep turning my back on people. Now, what minister wants to be turning her back on people in any sense of the word, right? And so I was called back to this idea of the prophet. That does not mean I can tell you the next winning lottery numbers. It's not that kind of prophecy. Besides that, all you have to do is check mine, and you'll find out what they are. My card. So a prophet's job is to speak truth to power and to people. It is essentially to speak truth, or as I was taught in ministerial school, to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. I always kind of had a problem with that. I'm much better at comforting people. I'm much more comfortable, given the way I was raised, to be nice. Anyone else raised to be nice? I like comforting people. I like reminding them of the magnificence of who they are. I am less likely to feel comfortable, and getting over it quickly, but less likely to feel comfortable telling all of us, reminding all of us that we need to get off our collective tukai, which is the plural of the Hebrew word tukuses. Tukus. I happen to know the Arabic word too, but we're not going to have that class today. And actually go live these things we say we believe. Yes? How do you feel about a person who claims to believe in certain things, but then you watch how they treat the rest of the world? They believe in the superiority of their own self, but they treat the server at the restaurant like dirt. They believe in the power of the one mind, but they are withholding good from certain classes of people. And they're vocal about it. It's hard to be around that, isn't it? It hurts something in your heart and your soul. That's because the divine in you is hurting for the divine within them, which is not being fully expressed. How much happier would other people be if they would just get things right? And do what I tell them the first time. That's really my job, right? My job is to reflect the glory that is your true self. My job is to remind you, even on the days where I feel squirmy about it, that you are better than whatever small thing you just pretended to believe. Whether that's your ability to speak your truth, whether that's your willingness to stand up for what you believe, whether it's my choice to share certain things from this platform. No matter how awesome you have figured out that you are, you're actually better than that. So I will never be out of work. There is a deeper and a higher place for you to go. Don't you love how I'm doing this whole talk as if I'm talking to you guys instead of myself? Somebody was going to bust me on that, right? Yeah, I know. That's why I have a prayer partner. I took care of that yesterday. So prophet, from the Greek, originally referred to a person who could speak for a god and interpret his will to humans, saying forth or proclaiming of what should be done in according with what the divinity or the big picture dictates. Let me read that again, because that's not on my job description exactly. A person who could speak for a god and interpret his will to humans, saying forth or proclaiming of what should be done in accordance with what the divinity or the big picture dictates. So a prophet is one who speaks for God. The mistake we have made is thinking there's only one in this room. We got a room full of prophets here. Each of us hear the divine in his or her voice in a different way. So all of us get to be prophets. And the comfortable person you get to disturb is you. That little thing in the back of your head that says, you know, I've been selling myself short all these years. Maybe I should stop. It's a thought. When I'm ready, I'll do it. Some of us are lucky enough to have friends and prayer partners who will be like, I'll confess, I called my prayer partner yesterday with one story. I was all up in my head about something silly. Well, it's silly now. It wasn't silly at the time. It was very serious. I had been offended. And she's like, yeah, no. Really? No. Your friends can say that, can't they? Your friends can just go walk up to that great big ego bubble and go, pop, and you won't kill them or anything. A true prophet will help you get your bloated nothingness out of the way so that you can go back to being the divine being that you actually are. One of the ways that will happen for me and for all of us is that we get among our tribe, our people, and they remind us what we are here to do. I had the honor and privilege of being the presenting minister at an ordination this past week. So, you know, I had to be me, so I said, I'm the presenting minister, here's your present. That's not what you meant, is it? She thought it was funny. You guys can catch up later. So as the presenting minister, what I do is remind the group as a whole that the person who is there to be ordained has earned ordination, has passed all the tests, has reached a point within their consciousness that they are truly ready to claim ministry for the rest of their lives. This is a marriage from which there will be no divorce, thank you very much. Well, we found out recently that in some extremely certain cases, you can have your ordination taken away, but it's got to be bad. You have to have, like, kicked more than 5 puppies or something. Ordination is a sacred time, and I remember my own was here in 2014. And I can still feel the echoes of the chamber of prayer we did at the end. This is where your colleagues come together and celebrate you as the magnificent soul that you are. You get that every Sunday morning. These are your people. These are your colleagues. These are the other practitioners, little p, of religious science that are here to remind you of who you are. That's why we get to call ourselves prophets. Part of every ordination, we read the Declaration of Principles. We say what we believe. And the part that gets me every time is that we share in this one mind. We believe that we all share in the one mind, what people might call the Christ mind, or the Atman, or the Buddha nature. That divine being that what Carl Jung, the psychologist, called the collective unconscious. Back there, real deep in our own subconscious, is the divine being that we actually are. And part of our joy is to call that up and recognize that we all share one mind. We are one. And part of the Declaration of Principles is we believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this one mind. We believe in the control of conditions through the power of this one mind. There is massive power in speaking capital T truth. It does heal the sick. It does change conditions. And I want you to remember that because we're going to get a little into that more later. Another part of what I said to the minister, Reverend Janice Farmer, who some of you know, as she was being ordained was I gave her a charge. I gave her directions. I said, I charge you to go, teach, love, minister to all, and may the peace of God reside in your heart. The truth of God expressed through your words, and the light of God move through your heart, mind, and hands into the world that awaits the mighty gifts you have to give. Now, you guys are not necessarily being formally ordained by an organization. You will not get the pretty stole. You don't have to buy the very expensive robes. But as vessels of the divine, as truth-sayers, as prophets in the old sense, I charge you to go out into the world, teach by your example, love without edges, without conditions, minister to all, be of service to, speak the truth to all. And when you have to, use words. And may the peace of God reside in your heart, that knowing that all is well, that you are absolutely loved and there's nothing you can do to make God not like you. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do to get outside of an infinite being that is the very essence of love for you. May the truth of God express through your words. This is where we comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable, by loving them no matter what. I had a friend who adopted an emotionally disturbed foster child. And we knew that that moment of healing had come when the kid was just going off. And John stood there in his truth and said, there's nothing you can do to make me not love you. Suck it up. Sometimes our prophets do not use the these and thous, or the F's and the S. There's nothing we can do that will make God not love us. Divine Mother is proud of you and who you are, not just what you do, but who you are. May the light of God move through your heart, mind, and hands into the world that awaits the mighty gifts you have to share, to give. This is where it gets a little bit more active. We believe we have the control of conditions through the power of this one mind. We say we believe that. And yet, I don't know about you, but as recently as yesterday, I was whining and crying and moaning about conditions that were not my fault. I didn't create them. People were being mean. People hadn't done nothing to me, trust and believe. Nobody even knew about any of this stuff except me, because I made it up. And so sometimes we use words that are sweet and soft and gentle. Ernest Holmes wrote in The Science of Mind, all life is bound together by one common law of love, and love is the self-givingness of spirit. Love is what we experience when the divine contemplates itself and then takes on us as its clothing. Ernest Holmes wasn't always quite so sweet. He also wrote, those whom the earth have labeled great have been people who extended their thinking to include all nations and races. Only people with petty minds indulge in racial hatreds and distinctions. That's right, he called some of us petty. I have had my petty moments, and a true friend calls me on them. Lovingly, and in private, please. But it is for me as your minister to say that there is something amiss in the national consciousness. There is something way sideways about our prosperity consciousness as a nation if we think there is only X amount of good and only the people who are already here can have any because there's not enough to share. That is not spiritual principle. Some people will say it's politics. But to me, it is spiritual principle to say there is good. There is more good than we can possibly experience in one lifetime, and there's plenty to share. There is something wrong with the national consciousness when 40% of Americans could not cover a $400 emergency expense. 40% of our brothers and sisters, the other faces of God in this country, can't cover a $400 expense. Guys, that's not even a trip to the hospital. That's like the phone call to the ER. In 99% of counties in America, a person working a full-time job at the minimum wage cannot afford a one-bedroom apartment. I am here as a prophet to tell you that is not based on spiritual principle as we teach it. It is not the truth of who we are. I don't think it's what the founders wanted for us at the physical level. I don't think it's what the Christ or the Buddha want for us at the spiritual level, to have this small idea of how much good we have and how much good we have to share. So for some of you, that's going to inspire a call to your Congress critter and say, what up? What's up with this? What can I be doing at the physical level? For some people, it's going to be about going out into the Quad City area, across the street that has now been plowed for you, and doing work that helps those who cannot afford that one-bedroom apartment. Not to fix it for them, and certainly not to fix them, but to be a truth teller and tell them of the magnificence of their own soul. If you don't have those words on the tip of your tongue, it's time to go back to prayer. For some of you, this is a prayer issue. I'm not telling you what to do about it. I'm telling you that as religious scientists, as people of principle, as divine beings and prophets, for such a time as this, it is ours to do. And for some of us, that means different things. How many of you feel like maybe you're one of that 4 in 10? You don't have to raise your hand. Maybe you know someone. Maybe I've been that someone until recently in my life. 20 minutes ago I was 16, so it feels very recent that I can afford a $400 expense without really even thinking about it. For many Americans, that requires borrowing money or selling something. If you know of anybody who is in that particular, with that situation within the membership, the voting membership, please remember that the minister has a discretionary fund. Send them to me in private. No one will know. It's not a shameful thing. The money's already in the budget. If I don't spend it, I don't get it next year. So for the love of God, somebody have a crisis. No one's going to know about it. I don't even write who the check is going to, except to say minister's discretionary fund and the business it's going to. I won't write it to an individual. No, I will not pay for lobster unless you take me with you. But there's a 5 Gifts of an Abundant Life class that's about to start. For those of you who think it's normal to have trouble coming up with that $400, or maybe you've had that time in your life and you'd like to make sure you never go back, sign up for Diane's class. It's the best investment of time and money you can make to ensure that the consciousness of this country is changing. For some of you, it's signing up to be part of the Harvest of Care Garden. For some of you, it's taking an extra 5 minutes in the morning to just pray in whatever words suit you for the good of this country. And you'll know it's working when it shows up in your life. At which point your job is to not say no to it. To not say, I don't deserve this. To not say, oh no, that's just too much. No, really. I'm sure somebody else needs it more than I do. No, nobody needs it more than you do. Nobody needs to take on more good than you think you deserve than you do. Why? Because the divine within you deserves all good. And if you don't show somebody how to do it, how the heck will they know it can be done? There is a divine being within you that is now speaking up with some heart's desire. Whether it's simply to be peaceful, whether it's simply to know that you can be proud of your Congress critter or your mayor or your whatever because they live according to principle. Because you as a divine being went and reminded them of who they are. that divine being, that beautiful soul. Maybe it's not a political office. Maybe it's the people who live across the street from you. Maybe it's that teenager who showed up at dark 30 and shoveled you out this morning, or yesterday, or the day before, and wouldn't take the money. Those people exist. They need to hear that that is who and what they are. That is a form of prayer, and we go to prayer now. And so in this moment, with all that I am, I come down amongst these great prophets in physical form. I stand here because I stand with my peers and colleagues, these bright faces of God, these Christ in form, these Atman in human clothing. These beautiful ones. And together we remember our oneness. We remember that even the prophets of old had to be reminded that the Lord their God was one. That there is no God but God. There is nothing else to do or be or have or say. And so in the light of this truth, in the light of this power, I rise up. I rise up in this truth, and I declare that we have power over conditions. We have control of conditions through the power of the one mind that is living in the world as us. And I declare a year of jubilee. I declare a day of freedom. I declare a day of absolutely knowing who and what we are, and I declare a whole new world. I claim for all of us a new world in which everyone is enfranchised. Everyone has a home and food and a sense of worth. I declare a day and a moment in time right here and now, never to turn around and run back to that littleness. I declare in this moment that we are the prophets, that we have the power, that we are the living expression of the divine being in all its glory and all its joy. And that being the truth, I simply step back and let the world take the form that most perfectly reflects that truth. I let each and every one of us live from that truth, knowing that it is Spirit doing the work through us, as us, and for us in this very moment. And having done my part, having prophesied my part, I step back, I let God do what God does, I let it be, and so it is.